misinformation, a study done showing how 80% came from such a small group of grannies. Now, that's the best I could search. I put my AI bot out there. Super sharers, a 2019 study analyzed the 2016 election, found users aged 65 and older were significantly more likely to share fake news. That's not the one. Here's the one. A tiny number of people spread the most misinformation. Another study focusing on Twitter activity during the 2020 election reported that around 2,100 U.S. voters were responsible for 80% of the fake news. Here's the article. Good Lord. It took some research in real time. Small groups spread large percentages, thank you, Nick, of online falsehoods, a study found. This was just 1 year ago. A small group of social media users spread most of the fake news that circulated in 2020, TechCrunch reports. Published in the Journal of Science, separate studies by researchers at MIT, Ben Gurion University, Cambridge, and Northeastern found that many of the falsehoods that social media users spread regarding COVID vaccines in the 2020 election originated on mainstream news websites, right? But then it got online, and look at the turnover. Where's the exact percentage? Where's the exact percentage again? Where is that percentage? 80%, it was in the last article. Here it is. 2,100 U.S. voters spread 80% of the fake news during the 2020 election. I'm sorry, this is a transformative data moment. I need you to pause and think about this. 2,100 people spread 80% of the fake news in this country during the election. A country of over 330 million people. Think about the amount of fake news that's spread every single day. We're talking about thousands upon thousands upon thousands of articles every day of fake news, misinterpretations, fake memes, everything that they did in 2016, in 2020. It was so effective that we never came out of COVID. We just started pretending that it didn't exist anymore. It was so effective that they still believe Donald Trump won in 2020. It's still effective and still paying dividends to MAGA. 80% of it came from 2,100 people. Now, you might say to yourself, 2,100 people is a lot of people compared to 37 people watching this video stream right now. No, it's not. It's the return on investment. It's the leverage. It's the leveraging. 2,100 people were able to give 80% of the total misinformation that drove an entire election in the United States empire. Tell me what 200 can't do to stop some of that misinformation. Tell me what 75 can't do to stop some of that misinformation. What am I saying, folks? What I'm preaching is that we need the people in the chat rooms to begin to be on the front lines of the information warfare, the information war that's happening right now. And see, we on the left, we made a really big mistake. We ceded that territory. We ceded that territory completely to MAGA. We didn't really we didn't structure ourselves for the internet age, for the information age on social media. Not the way MAGA did. MAGA put money in that thing. And that's the big difference. Like if there's a problem, they would somebody throw $1 million at it and figure it out. We don't have those resources on our side. And it is what it is. Does that mean we throw in the towel, say, we don't have enough money, we can't do this, we can't try? They have the one thing about MAGA is they know how to, they get in line. Oh my goodness. They are all so subservient to power. They're like all butt kissers. And they're all like, ooh, I want to move up the hierarchy of MAGA, so I'm going to kiss this person's ass and do what no, we don't do that over here on the left. You got to prove, you got to fight for your life to get ahead on the left. Which is why I'm glad we have this space. We're sharing this space now. You got to be, on the right, you don't even have to be talented. Just go out there and say something stupid. Just as long as it's a lie. And you can find somebody who will put money. They'll get somebody's coffee company to be an advertiser on your site. Man, you got to be smarter, sharper, better presenting. You on the left? No. You got to come with it. So there's an asymmetric battle, folks, where we're fighting against headwinds and forces that are way bigger than us individually, way more funded than we are, and they don't have the burden of being accurate. Are you with me? Are you all seeing what I'm asking, what I'm saying? I haven't asked you yet, but I'm saying it slowly as I get you a little bit closer to my close and make way for Angry Ginger. Folks, I'm about to say the most cliche thing you have ever heard me say, but damn it, I got to say it. You are the resistance. You are who you've been waiting on. You are the people who can do the most damage against MAGA. Why? Because MAGA, more than anything else, is an information machine, a misinformation machine, a disinformation machine, fake news machine, fake narratives machine. I mean, they're making fake mythos now. You got that. What's that lady who flipped off a 5-year-old and called him the N-word? She's in the pantheon of MAGA. She's up there with Kyle Rittenhouse. She's up there with the Marine who killed Jordan Neely on the subway in New York. It's good I can't remember that Marine's name, but I remember Jordan Neely's name. The biggest war that we are in right now, more than anything else, is the information war. And where's the information war being waged? On social media. And that's where we're losing. And that's why I kind of give Gavin Newsom some props. At least they recognize that, and they're actively, saying, hey, we'll be the, and it just so happens that every dime he spends in this is going to make him a bigger name to run for president. Okay. we have to talk about those things. You're not just going to get me excited about Gavin Newsom just because he had a really good meme week. Nah, we're not going to do that. He wants to run for president, then we're going to have to talk about what he did to reparations in the state of California. We're going to have to talk about what he did to those homeless encampments on video himself, going to throw away and tear down. Like he literally got out there in his nice shoes and went and tore down a homeless encampment to make a sign that he was interested in cleaning up California. You want to run for president? We got to talk about that, Jack. But game recognized game. You guys had a great meme week this week. But you know what's even more important? What I think is more better, if I could? What would be more better would be if every chat room across this internet on the left, those of you who know each other, you see each other everywhere you go. You see each other here. You see each other there. You see each other in the Letter Hacks chat. You see each other over there in Kyle Kalinski's chat. You see each other on Leftist Mafia chat. You'll see them in a few minutes over in Leftist Mafia. You'll see them over there, Rebecca Azor chat. You'll see them over there on The Rising. You'll see them over there with who you're going to see each other everywhere. If you realize how important the information war was, would it help you realize how important your single tweet is? And then 10 of you making a statement together. And then 30 of you making a statement together. What's the statement? Progressivism. What's the statement? Universal health care. What's the statement? Truth, facts. justice, liberation. What's the statement? Rights for everybody. Rights. You get rights. You get rights. You get rights. Everybody gets rights. What are we saying? What are the statements? What are we going on social media to do? To fight back against the lie, to fight back against the fear, to fight back against the attempts at intimidation, to break up to break them up. Why are we sitting back and allowing a huge percentage of Americans to organize right in front of us ethnic cleansing in the United States of America? Political prisoners in the United States of America. Every day, MAGA is talking about ethnic cleansing, arresting political prisoners, executing people, and we're just sitting back like, oh, let's see what the algorithm brings me next. No. Get up and fight. And in this version of the fight, you get to go right to work the next day. You don't have to pick up a gun. You don't have to pick up a Molotov cocktail. You don't have to catch a charge. All you might do every now and then, you might catch a suspension because you went too far, but that's between you and your own sentiments. Folks, that's it for me today. Please excuse the avatar. Again, it's been a day. I had to push a car off the highway. So it was just like, nah, I'm not putting on a suit today, but I hope everything that we talked about sticks with you. I hope something I said helps you. And I hope that after this, you will get up and do something about whatever is ailing you. I'm turning this over to Angry Ginger. I'll see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to patreon.com/VPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
What's happening, everybody? I hope you guys are making it through your week. Sounds like Benjamin Dixon is having a hell of a day, and so was I, folks. Me and Benjamin Dixon might actually be the same person. I had a tough day as well. It was a difficult day at work. But we're here, and we're doing this now. And as is always the case, you just want to, keep your head down, push hard, and work for better things, man. Work for better things. So, it's kind of funny how often me and Benjamin Dixon are on the same page with this show. I am sometimes just literally coming on here and continuing Benjamin Dixon's show. I want to talk to you guys today about something that I call the age of information and the age of understanding. literally what Benjamin Dixon was just talking about. For those of you that watch my channel, you know that oftentimes I talk about what's going on in today's society. And you heard a lot of what I talk about just about 10-15 minutes ago from Benjamin Dixon when he's talking about misinformation and how we got into this area that we are in today. You see, it was about the year 1800 that the world entered a stage called the Enlightenment. And during that time, science became a big part of the world. We stopped believing that hurricanes were created by a vengeful God that didn't like a man sleeping with another man. We learned about sitting down and spending time and looking at things and creating information hubs and getting together and sharing ideas. And in my opinion, that ended a dark age, and it began an age of information. And in my opinion, that age of information culminated in a peak, and that is the internet. A time in which oftentimes I say people are undereducated and overstimulated. A time in which most people, I think, nowadays have reached a point where there's so much information that they choose, instead of ingesting long form content, they choose to ingest it in really short form content. 15-second TikToks and such, right? Memes. Reading headlines instead of reading the article. And I believe that's because there's so much information now. Like we passed the point of like the information being available, and now the information that's available, there's so much of it that it's hard to sift through it. And then you complicate that matter by adding misinformation, and you add voices, and you have the death of intellectualism. And what you end up with is that if you don't have enough people that are media literate, if you don't have enough people that have critical thinking, that are logical human beings, what you end up having is what Aristotle predicted 2,000 years ago. And that is an easily manipulated populace with an ability to vote on things that they don't understand. And that's why I believe that we are leaving the age of information and we are entering the age of understanding. And the age of understanding is going to be very lonely for many people, critical thinkers, logical human beings, people that understand media literacy, that understand audience capture. Because once you recognize that society is built on a certain amount of dishonesty, your relationships are built on a certain amount of dishonesty. Once you realize that as you grow older and you start to look at some of your relationships and you recognize that it's not a relationship, it's just you complaining with your friend about something. And every time you get together, all you do is you just complain. You complain about your other friends. You complain about your job. You complain about the weather. And then one day, you push back. And your friend says something like, me and my wife were fighting, and she was wrong because she said this. And you think to yourself, well, I don't think that's right. That doesn't sound right. I think she might have been right. And you say, well, man, I think actually you're wrong about that. And you notice a change in that person's demeanor. Because so many of our relationships leading up to this point have been built on just affirmation, just agreement. And we're finding out today, because of politics, because of the divide, exactly who our friends are and who they aren't. And those people that understand that society is built on an illusion, that relationships are built off of oftentimes dishonest communication, false affirmation, things start to get a lot lonelier. But that's not a bad thing, because this society that we're currently dealing with is too loud. It talks too much. There's too much information, and there's not enough silence. There's not enough time in the day for people where they sit down and they think about whether or not the information that they are getting is of any value. There's not enough time in the day where people depend solely on themselves. We enter the age of understanding, but it's an age in which you're only going to be able to lean on certain people to help you through that. Most of this is going to come down to you. Most of this is going to come down to how much you're willing to put into it. How many books are you willing to read? How much time are you willing to do research? Because it's going to get harder and harder to discern between what is real and what is fake in this society. And our guy Benjamin Dixon was talking about a little bit of that, right? And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about it. I'm going to use some examples that are currently going on with certain racist elements that are kind of changing how reality is working in this country. So let's see here. Let's see if I can pull it up. All right. Let's get the old man glasses on. And let's put some stuff up here for you guys. And we're going to read this, we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to watch a video. So this right here, this brilliant looking gentleman right here, is a UFC fighter that just won a contract from the UFC. The name of this article is Unfit for Paramount. Dana White rewards Contender Series clown with racist reel, a UFC contract. Now, I want to point something out here. This isn't an article by some kind of left-wing liberal think tank. This isn't CNN. This isn't MSNBC. It's not even CNBC. This is SB Nation, a sports article. And it goes on to say here, if you thought Josh Hokett's post-fight interview on Dana White's Contender Series was eyebrow-raising, wait until you've seen the kind of stuff he's been posting on social media. This week, every winner on Contender Series was giving a UFC's contract, and I can't talk today, it's been a long day, including heavyweight Hokett for his ground and pound TKO of Guillermo Uriel. Oh, I can't say that. UFC CEO Dana White praised the former college wrestling national champion and NFL practice squad player for breaking his opponent in the first round and finishing him in the second. Not mentioned was what he said afterwards. So this is, first of all, we're going to watch this real quick. This is a video of his interview afterwards. And I want you guys to understand something. This is where I grew up watching UFC, right? I sparred when I was a kid. I grew up in a place where you need to know how to defend yourself. I sparred a lot. And the guy that I sparred with one day brought in the UFC #1 tape, the VHS tape, right? You got to watch this, man. This is crazy. This jiu-jitsu guy, man, he fights a dude with one boxing glove on. It's insane. This little karate dude fights a sumo wrestler. It's crazy. You got to watch this. So I've been watching the UFC since the first UFC. That's how old I am. And back in those days, there's definitely a gimmick to it. But the gimmick was jiu-jitsu can beat any martial art on earth. Any martial art. And back then, that was something. And it meant something, and it was interesting, and it was entertaining. And back then there was no rules, by the way. I think you couldn't pull hair, and you couldn't fish hook people or eye gouge people. I think those are the only rules. I think you're actually allowed to hit each other in the groin at the very beginning. And people have been so desensitized to the UFC now that it's taking on WWE style elements. And this is what this guy has chosen to do. But the crazy thing about this is this guy didn't say, I'm going to create, a Ultimate Warrior character. I'm not going to create a, Undertaker character. What he said was, I'm going to create a racist American character. Why? Because that's what's popular.
His partner, Dana White, have decided to get rid of this unentertaining heavyweight division, and instead we're going to create the Incredible Hulk division. But my opponents won't be these lazy, boring heavyweights. My opponents will be sex traffickers, pedophiles, rapists. Hell, you can even throw the transgenders in there. Line them all up, and one by one, I give them a good old American beatdown inside the octagon to show the world that there's consequences for these types of behaviors in America.
There you hear it. That is where our country is. When I was a kid, characters like The Undertaker, characters like The Ultimate Warrior, The Rockers, Demolition, The Legion of Doom, that was considered edgy. That was considered crazy. The UFC now has a fighter that has created a persona that says, bring on the transgenders. And it's not over yet. It's not over yet. He goes on. He's got his little character he plays here, where he says, I left the liberal snowflake NFL to do a real man's sport in a real man's promotion. And here I am doing just that by earning this UFC contract. I've been chewed up and spit out, and I continue to find a way, and I will find a way to that UFC gold. A lot of those guys in the heavyweight division are just fat and overweight. Their fights are boring. They don't even speak English. I feel like that should be a criteria. You speak English, then you can be in the UFC. That's just how I would run it. So, this is what's popular. This is what gets the young dudes that watch UFC going. Fight. Let's put the transgenders in the ring, and we're going to give them a good old American beatdown. What does that sound like? It sounds like an America that fucking was around almost 100 years ago. We're literally going backwards. You can't fight in the UFC unless you speak English. This is what this administration has brought about. This is where we're at. Now, to anybody that's followed it, now I'm not going to play the end of this video, but we're going to play the beginning of it, and I'm going to let you go ahead and guess what the last word this gentleman says in this is.
You're a big brawler. You fight like a beginner. If you came to America back in the day, they'd probably call you a...
What do you think that final word was? Not going to play it, because if this is my channel, we play it. But I'm going to be respectful. I don't want anything to happen to this channel. What do you think that last word was going to be? I got a book behind me. Let me see if I can get this. Let's go over here real quick. This is the book. Everybody should read this book. Everybody should read this book. Because this isn't a book about 1920. This isn't a book about the 50s. This is a book about Barack Obama's first term in office and how it encouraged growth in the KKK. It's Joe Moore's book. Joe Moore was an undercover citizen who went undercover in the KKK and was asked to assassinate Barack Obama. And he stopped it from happening. And during his time in the KKK, he saw them grow and become stronger based off of the hate this country had for seeing a president that was black. And that same hate, by the way, because Joe Moore went back for a second time into the Ku Klux Klan during Donald Trump's administration. And during that time, their numbers exploded. And when he got out of the Ku Klux Klan and he put these people on trial, the FBI put them on trial, and he bore witness and helped put them behind bars, you know where those people went? They went to the 3%ers. They went to the Proud Boys. They went to the Oath Keepers. They went to the places that they felt the most comfortable because the KKK was being raided by the FBI. All those people on January 6th, the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, when people say, oh, they're just patriots, they're proud of the country. Literally, the people in the KKK went there. Went to those places because that's where they felt safe. But I'm not done yet. Just recently, we had Jillian Michaels. Jillian Michaels, the Biggest Loser, on, what did she go on? CNN? CNN? Was that what she was on? To tell people, slavery wasn't that bad, guys. slavery wasn't that bad. Not really. You know, people learned skills. I mean, what would they have been without those slave masters to ruin their lives and the lives of all of their descendants? And, you know, she went on to say, you know, only a couple % of the entire country owned slaves, man. Not even that big of a deal. And the reason that I'm talking about this is because we have all the information, and now they're trying to change your understanding. They're trying to change the way that you understand what the problem with this country is. They're trying to change the history. Donald Trump wants to change the Smithsonian's history. They want to change the narrative surrounding one of the most horrific slave trades that has existed on a globe that has had multitudes of slave trades. And I've said this before. I don't believe that white people nowadays should stand up and be like, you know what, I'm ashamed, I prostrate myself, I'm so sorry. Like, no, you should just understand. You should understand. Yeah, you didn't do that. But you have people in your society that are descended from the victims of the people that had that done to them, that are affected by that. When we look at things like redlining in this country, when we talk about the fact that HOAs were originally started to keep black people from entering white neighborhoods, when we have Rosa Parks, when the woman who is literally one of the first women to enter into a non-segregated school is still alive today, you have to still recognize that this happened. You can't just move past it. You can say, that wasn't me, and that's a shameful history for the United States of America. But you got to understand that it did happen, and you do have to understand that it has effects. Our country is affected by this, and they're trying to change the understanding. They're trying to say, these black people in your country, these minorities, they just want you to feel guilty for being a white person. I have never met in my entire life, and I grew up around black folk. I grew up around minorities. Never met a single minority that has came to me and been like, you know what? You should prostrate yourself to me. This is all your fault. Did they know their history? Yeah, they knew their history. Did they understand their history? Yeah, they understood their history. What did they expect from me? Understanding. That's it. That's all. Just not denial. Just not being an asshole. Just not continuing a racist, past of this country. But they want to change all that. So this is a video. This is Dr. Richie over there. One of the few people over there. Still living over on TYT. But talking about Jillian Michaels doubling down. Mentioning black degeneracy.
Doubles down on the mention of black degeneracy. Here it is.
He's not whitewashing slavery. So
he's not?
He's not. No,
okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you
anti-slavery,
let's talk about the fact.
The problem with her argument, and the problem with every argument that every conservative makes when they come to this, is saying, yeah, there was slavery in the other parts of the world. Yeah, there was, and that was bad too. Well, there were white people that also made slaves. Yeah, that was bad too. There was Chinese people that were slaves. Yeah, that was bad too. What the fuck are we talking about? It's all bad. Slavery, bad. Period. It just so happens that the slavery that was taking place here in America was the majority of it was black people. And those people still live here. Their fucking descendants still live here. You don't get to be, and this is something that goes along with MAGA. You don't get to abuse people and then just sweep it under the rug. That is the problem. If somebody said to you, if you said this, if you said, when I was a child, I was assaulted. and somebody said to you, big deal. There's people all around the world getting assaulted. That's a what? A what? The fact that atrocities are happening or have happened throughout the world, throughout history, does not in any way minimize an atrocity that has happened to you or your ancestors. It does not minimize an atrocity that happened in the country that we currently exist in. It's a fucking insane argument to make. And yet there are a ton of these fucking people on the MAGA side right now that are like, fuck everything you know. And just think about it this way. What's really going on is black people are trying to make you feel bad. That's what's going on. That's what she wants you to believe.
I mean, slavery in America was...
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were
Do you know who was the first race to try to end slavery?
Wait a second.
Well, what's controversial?
I'm very surprised.
This is an extraordinary exercise in historical revisionism.
I'm really surprised.
Do you realize that...
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and who was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is that...
in the context of...
No, she's not. She's just trying to say, yeah, it was bad here, but it was also bad in France. Oh, I didn't... Are we on France right now? I thought we were talking about us.
American history.
Okay.
In the context of American history, what are you saying is incorrect by saying that it was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad. And it's totally partisan.
We don't, first of all, we don't have time.
Jillian Michaels has really been held down, guys. You've got to actually understand. You got to find a place in your heart to understand that Jillian Michaels has had a hard life, guys. You know, there's a lot that she's been dealing with, you know, talking shit to fat people mostly. No, that's all, actually. That's all. Guys, you don't understand how badly Jillian Michaels has been treated while treating obese people badly. You guys don't get it, man. Just living as a white person, knowing that history exists, has been very hard for Jillian Michaels to deal with.
To litigate all of this.
Of course we don't, because then you're going to lose the argument. And everything is racialized, just like you're trying to do to me now.
Excuse me?
I will spit on myself.
That's a reminder of the first time we talked about this, provided the facts, and obviously,
that was close.
Ms. Michaels, you get your facts about racism from Nick Fuentes. Here's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. Age of information, now becoming the age of understanding. And here's the thing. You know, we watch this kind of stuff and we go like, there's at least a couple of you that are going to be like, nah, man, like no one's going to believe this shit. No one's caring about that. No one thinks Jillian Michaels is actually like spitting facts. Here's the crazy part. Friends you have right now, friends that you believe are good people, friends that you think like are logical, thinking human beings. Talk to me in a decade. Tell me where they're at. Because this type of thinking is invasive. It appeals to victimhood. It appeals to MAGA, who believe that even though white Americans still make up 85% of the population, that they're being replaced. Donald Trump hit on something. Donald Trump found something. What he found is a group of people that are angry, hateful, and fearful. A group of people that don't want accountability or responsibility. A group of people that are just looking for any convenient fact to say it's not their fault. Look around you now. Think about the people in your relationships now and ask yourself, do you have a friend that's borderline? A person that's like, well, you know, Trump isn't that bad. You know, like, you know, the left's always calling him Hitler. He's not Hitler. Do you have a friend that's like, yeah, so what, he grabbed her by the pussy. You know what? That's what they did back in that day. You got a friend like that? Because I bet you fucking money, 6 years, 8 years from now, they'll be saying to you, did you know that Republicans are the ones that freed the slaves? Did you know that only 2% of the entire population owns slaves? These are the things that people are going to pick up from people like her. When you have a UFC fighter that is making it his very character to talk about fighting transgenders and beating them up in the good American way, that using the N-word, it should tell you that pop culture is not only accepting this rhetoric, but it's embracing it. And I grew up punching skinheads in the face. I'm not cool with this. I know what racism looks like. I know how dirty and disgusting that type of hate is. I'm not going to fall for that shit. But look around you. You know somebody in your family, somebody that's maybe a friend of yours. And I will bet money on this. 5 years, 6 years from now, if this is the type of shit that we allow, they're going to be saying to you, slavery wasn't even that bad.
She doubled down. Now, this is after you have the opportunity to listen to folk tell you the truth, and I'm sure somebody on social media reminded you of what facts actually are. Then the response to the proclamation is made. Here it is.
Less than 2% of white Americans own slaves.
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were
Do you know
the slave
who
owners.
was the first race to try to end slavery?
That's an incredibly misleading statistic, because even the Americans who did not own slaves also participated in slavery by benefiting from the economic system of slavery.
Yeah. And this is the thing that people don't understand. You'll get somebody that'll say, so there was nobody back then that wasn't racist? No, there was. Of course there was. There's always existed people that aren't racist, and there's always existed people that were. But you don't minimize slavery by saying, there was like 6 people back in the day that totally didn't hate black people. That's much like minimizing assault. Like, you don't minimize women being, harmed by men by saying, well, there were men back in the day that also didn't harm women. Yeah, no fucking shit. I don't think we're talking about them. And when you start defending shit like that, you look like you might be a little insecure about whether or not you're one of them. Currently, there is a list of pedos that exist within our government that a certain Trump president is defending. If we were to say, during the administration of Donald Trump, a lot of pedos got defended, and you were to say, well, there were some politicians that weren't for it. Yeah, motherfucker, of course there were. That does not minimize the fact that there are people currently stopping people from getting fucking justice. Victims.
Political system of slavery and culturally treating black people as if they were not human. But Jillian didn't acknowledge any of those things, and that, I think, is really what shocked so many of us at the table. Since then,
insane.
She's doubled down, and she's even said that she had reached out to the White House before coming on the show to ask them about which Smithsonian exhibits they wanted to dispute. She acknowledged that none of the talking points provided by the White House, according to her, had to do with slavery, and yet she still decided to downplay it at the Newsnight table. Fast forward a couple of days later.
Yeah, because she has a narrative. This is the problem with these people. Like, the reason I like watching videos live is because I'm reacting. I'm giving you my analysis on point, right? I didn't come into this going like, okay, I'm going to say X, Y, and Z, right? Like, I don't like watching videos and then giving you guys analysis because I don't want to feel like what I'm doing is contrived. I want to react to what is being said. And sometimes I'm wrong, and that's okay. Sometimes, I'm going to get a statistic wrong because I'm reacting to it at the time. That's fine. I don't mind being corrected. But if you're going to go on to something like this and you already have this narrative in your head that this is what's going on, then that's what's going to come out during that interview. There are so many complicated questions when it comes to America's past, and there are no simple answers. And this taking it down to hey, at the end of the day, yes, some black people were definitely slaves, but some white people weren't racist. Like, that is a fucking bananas argument. I say this to MAGA all the time. There are arguments that you could make. That's not one of them.
And now President Trump is actually also downplaying slavery, suggesting that the Smithsonian talks about it too much and overemphasizes the negative of
It is literally our fucking history.
slavery in the context of American history.
That's correct. And
I don't know why you guys are still talking about the fucking American Revolution. Why are we still talking about the American Revolution so much? I mean, Jesus Christ, it's mentioned in the history books. It's in museums. Fucking people, why are people always talking about George Washington? Man, why are people talking about any president? Why are we talking about Trump's first term still? Why do we talk about Obama or Clinton? It's because it's fucking part of our history. And if you do not know your history, you are fucking doomed to repeat it. And we are, people think this is hyperbolic to say, but we are about to enter a new form of slavery. One that has been written about in books like 1984. And that is the slavery of the proletariat. The slavery of the middle class and the working class. When you have federal government agents in the middle of some of the nicest places of DC, have no doubt that's not to police crime. That's to keep black people, brown people, and poor white people where people like Donald Trump and Bezos and Zuckerberg want them. And that is in ghettos on the outskirts of the cities, so that way they can keep you building the fucking robots that Elon Musk can call his friends. If you do not know your history, you are doomed to repeat it. If you do not know why those people had slaves and what they used them for, you are doomed to repeat it. And if you think today, because you have white skin, that somehow is going to keep you from becoming one of them, I have news for you. You do not make enough money. Even if you are upper middle class, you do not make enough money to keep your head above that water. That water is going to catch you, it is going to consume you, and you are going to be just another person showing up to the factory, building the robots, and dying early of cancer. Because that's what they want from you.
This Abby Phillip, great job, by the way. I'm very impressed. So, as Michael said, yeah, I called White House. Yep, I called White House, had a conversation. It's called a co-conspiracy, okay? It is a messaging co-conspiracy. It is intentional, it is by design, and they've been doing it for a very long time. Now, Ms. Michaels responds to tell her side of the story at an event. Here it is.
I go on CNN and I get the topics ahead of time. So one of them is that Trump is trying to revise history by asking the Smithsonian to revisit some of their installations.
What does that mean, like art piece?
Bro, to revisit. Imagine if Joe Biden asked anybody to revisit anything at all. Like, let's just say Joe Biden said, let's go ahead and go on down there to the Civil War Museum. I heard that there was possibility some LGBT involvement in the Civil War that was unseen. I heard there was a transgender general in the Civil War. MAGA would lose their fucking minds. Lose their minds. And remember, when I said, look around you, think about it. Think about how insidious this thinking is. About, like, look at your friends, look at your family members, look at people that you still, like, look at with respect right now, that you still love because they haven't joined up, because they're not quite that far gone yet. Look at Jillian Michaels. 10 years ago, I could have said the same thing to you about Jillian Michaels. And you would have been like, she's kind of a little crazy, but she ain't that crazy. You would have said, yeah, you know, so what? She likes money, but she ain't that bad. And look at her now. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the insidiousness of misinformation, of the grift. And I also want to say this. When I say that about, like, the water rising, these people, whether it's Jillian Michaels or Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk, or even, like, you see some of the Democratic folk that won't say shit, your Hakeem Jeffries, your Chuck Schumers, you know, we're sending strongly worded letters to Donald Trump. I want you to keep this in mind. Those people think that they can outrace that water. They're not quiet because they think, oh, you know, this is actually a pretty good strategy. They're quiet because they're scared. They're quiet because they think if they just stay quiet and they don't do anything to piss Donald Trump off, when he revises history and he changes what the Smithsonian has to say about slavery, and he outlaws being something like LGBT, when he says that trans people don't exist like Iran does or Saudi Arabia does, that they'll be okay. Because once again, when you look around, if you got a Hakeem Jeffries in your life, you're like, you know, he's a little misguided. He should speak up more. He's actually a good dude, though. A lot of those people are going to find, as more information, more insidious misinformation becomes a part of their life, that it's easier to embrace it and not go against the current than it is to take it up. Because like I said at the beginning of this, relationships in this country as well as across the globe are built on dishonest affirmations. You saying to the other people in your life, yeah, I agree with that, while inside going, fuck, I don't agree with that. And we need more honest people. We need more people that are willing to say, you know what? I'm going to go against the current, and if that means I stand here the fuck by myself, then I will do so, because I'm not fucking scared. You can't just talk about it. You gotta be about it.
Wasn't sure. Okay. So I asked the same question. And so I reached out to the comms team at the White House. I said, listen, this is going to come up. Can I ask you, what installations is the administration taking umbrage with? Can you send it to me? So they send me a document, and it's about 50 pages. Oh, my word. Not one thing in the document, not one installation actually is about slavery. This one woman on the other side immediately goes to Trump is whitewashing slavery. So with unbelievable confidence, knowing what was...
Donald Trump said the fucking words himself. Even if the White House sent you 50 pages, and I'm being best faith here, and not a single one of those things had anything to do with slavery, Donald Trump himself said that they should be looked at. These are his words. This is nobody's fucking taking him out of context. He said this shit.
In there, I'm like, no, he's not. And then when I said no, he's not, then Abby Phillips and Richie Torres essentially, I guess, made some sort of assumption that I was trying to defend slavery. I'm not quite sure where they got that impression. We constantly talk about...
You're not defending slavery, you're defending white people. And it's not necessary. Because if you don't feel like okay, so if my wife comes to me and she starts talking about somebody abusing his wife, right? And she's worked up, she's pissed off. She's like, it's just like, this guy is super abusive of this woman. And then I'm like, yeah, actually, you know, he's not that bad of a dude. My wife is right to look at me and be like, why the fuck are you defending a dude that beats his wife? Are you abusive? Like, that's the point. If somebody says something about slavery existing and you jump up and you're like, hey, white people aren't bad, it makes you look fucking suspect and insecure, dog. Like, if somebody is talking about slavery around me, I'm generally like that shit was pretty fucked up, to be honest. It doesn't matter who it happened to. White people, black people, Chinese people. Like, slavery is just bad. I'm just, like, against it. Like, I'm not about to be like, hey, man, did you know, bro, actually, do you know who freed the slaves? White people. Like, motherfucker, they were the people that owned them. They made up like 90-some% of fucking the slave owners, 98%, whatever the fuck it was. Yeah, I would think that they had something to do with it. It's sus that you're having to defend this.
White supremacy. But we look the other way with black degeneracy. It begets white hostility that then validates and begets white degeneracy. And it's this impossible cycle. So I turn around to Richie Torres and I was like, do you realize that less than 2% of Americans white Americans owned slaves? Wow. And the reason I say this is I'm not trying to whitewash slavery.
Yeah, you are.
It's because not all white people are the enemy. White people, we really don't understand. We don't.
She's literally every dude that when a woman says, you know what pisses me off? Is men in the patriarchy. And some dude's like, there's no patriarchy, bro. Like, okay, was she talking about you? Because you seem to be very much insecure about the fact that you think she might have been talking about you. She's every dude that has ever fucking been like, not all men. Like, motherfucker, if she ain't talking about you, she ain't talking about you. If you have never abused a woman in your life, then you don't have to worry about whether or not you're being included in the DV people. You should feel pretty fucking secure that you're like, I ain't do that shit, so I'm good. But also, fuck those dudes. Fuck the dudes that abuse women. I'm not one of them. I didn't do it. I don't have to be insecure about it. And also, fuck those dudes. And that's the way that white people can be about slavery too. Is you can say, yeah, I didn't do that shit for sure, but it's still fucking embarrassing. I didn't do that shit, but it's still fucking horrific. I didn't do that shit, but it's still part of our fucking history. That's what's wrong with Jillian Michaels. Because you know why? Deep down, she does believe that it wasn't that bad. Deep down, she does believe, why can't these black people just get over it? That's why it's so important to her.
And then black people are like, I don't have to explain this to you. And it's like, maybe you do. Maybe you do. And white people, even though you may not have been responsible for it and you don't want to get another lecture, I think you need to sit there and listen long enough to understand why.
Who the fuck is getting lectured? Who are these people? Like, what groups does Jillian Michaels like exist in where there are black people that are lecturing her on her perceived white guilt or the necessity of her white guilt? It doesn't exist. This is the same thing as the fucking Sydney Sweeney commercial. Like, is there like a person that exists out there that like 100% believes that white people should have to atone for the sins of the past? Of course. Just like I've said it before. There are assholes that are white, assholes that are black, trans people that are assholes, straight people that are assholes. There are assholes in every single segment of our society. They do not represent the whole. They don't. This fucking made up scenario in which Jillian Michaels has been lectured does not exist unless she brought up the fucking subject and tried to defend slavery. The only time you're ever going to get lectured about being white and fucking and slavery being the topic is if you're trying to defend it.
The pain is still there.
Ma'am, I'm not doing this because I think there's any, well, I'm not doing this because I think there's a lot of hope for you.
This poor dude.
That's all. Fact-checking is part of the role of one who proposes to be a giver of truth. You just read a document from the White House and said, oh, hell, we've been wrong about racism and slavery this whole time.
Complete honesty out of this White House.
20%, madam, of southern states had populations that owned slavery. 20%. Damn near 70 to 80% of the enterprise was supported by law, culture, banks, insurance companies.
Yeah, but they didn't own the
Put
slaves,
up
dude. It's no big deal.
the picture, full mass. I just want you to take a good look at MAGA's choice, okay? So here we go. After comments Michael's made last week on CNN's Newsnight with Abby Phillip, Abby had to do a whole damn new commentary and post it. This was so outrageous. About the breadth of slavery, and blew up across the internet. She now has made claims about black degeneracy. This happened when Michaels was a speaker at the 10X Ladies Conference. This was in Florida, August 16th, sat down with the conference's host for a conversation. That's when she said this. Now, let's talk about the 2%.
Before he gets into that, too, I want to say something, because I know most of you guys probably know who these dudes are, the Cartier family, right? They're 4 black dudes, 4 brothers. And I recently watched a video of them watching Nick Fuentes. And the reason I bring this up is because of the word black degeneracy. And if you're black and you think I'm not talking to you when I say look around you and look at your friends, look at your family members, and ask yourself whether or not they'll be spewing this bullshit 6 years from now, I'm talking to you too. I'm talking to everybody. Black, brown, white, purple, green, blue, yellow, stripes, whatever you got. No one is immune to this disinformation. I watched 3 of the 4 brothers shit on black people for being degenerate. I watched 3 black brothers shit on not just on black people, by the way, because really what they're talking about is poor people. I watched 3 young black men, well educated, that come from a good family, talk about other black men as though they were beasts, as though they were animals. And coming from where I come from, a place where literally we had to punch dudes in the mouth for talking about people like that, for being racist garbage. Like, that was so fucking sad to see, man. Because I just wanted to reach out to those dudes and be like, man, you're saying to yourself, like, look, like we're so much better than these other black people, and like, you know, like they are animals, yada, yada, yada. Because like what you're talking about, you're not talking about a black situation. You're talking about a poor person situation. This is where I come from. Like, when you say like those black people are criminals, no, what you mean was those poor people. And I've talked about this before. The reason that there's so much crime in impoverished areas. You know, once when I first came up to where I live now, and I was talking to somebody at the place I worked, he was talking about, you want to come out on the boat with me? And I said, man, I don't really do water. And he's like, you don't do water? What do you mean you don't do water? And I was like, I'm not the greatest swimmer, dude. And this is what the dude said to me. He said, you ain't black. And I was like, dog. I'm like, you know, the reason why people can't swim isn't because they're black. It's because when you grow up in poor areas, you don't have access to getting to places where there are bodies of water that you can swim in. The reason that I can't swim well, which I swim okay, guys. I'm one hell of a doggy paddler, okay? And I can swim for about 13 seconds without fucking running out of breath. Like real swimming. I don't go far, but it looks like a lot. I'm just saying. I'm like, you know, the reason that there's a myth that oh, black people can't swim is because it's poor people. It ain't black people. And I so badly wanted to reach out to these young black dudes and go, you're looking at things from your point of view and you're like, we're better than them because you had a nice life. Because the majority of minorities in this culture are growing up in impoverished communities with no real chance of getting out of there. That's just going to continue a cycle. That's going to continue racism. That's going to continue keeping people down. And you're not just talking about black people. You're talking about poor people. So I just wanted to say that because I heard that shit and it made me so mad to watch these obviously well-educated young black men talk about other black people that way. That hurts my heart.
Claim, okay? So contextually, this is what she left out. She left out the part where half of the United States at the time of the Civil War seceded in hopes of preserving slavery. They left because this was such a big deal to them. Regardless of the number of white people who physically owned black people, a whole lot more white people definitely fought for the rights of those owners of people who happen to be black. A whole lot more. To own black folk was a thing. You can't own a human being. It's a ridiculous concept. It's insane to even consider the point. And it somehow makes people forget what slavery is. Once again, slavery is human trafficking. With all of the
bad, no matter
perils
what.
that come with that, including sexual assault, murder, abuse. So human trafficking, sanctioned, legalized, statutorily protected in the United States of America. All right, Confederate states at this point, a whole lot of people owned them. Duke professor Sandy Darty has been quoted as saying that certain Confederate states have populations where 20% of white people owned enslaved black folk. And in Mississippi and South Carolina, the number hit up to 50%. Hannah Jones,
crazy.
Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who created the 1619 Project, who has spent her career reframing American history around the legacy of slavery, posted her rebuttal. She detailed how cotton picked by enslaved labor represented half of all U.S. exports, fueling the country's banks, factories, and institutions. Quote, without slavery, our nation would be unrecognizable to us, she said. We cannot let them choose the parameters. We cannot let them choose the parameters of the conversation in order to obfuscate the truth. And that is correct. She highlighted how slavery's reach extended far beyond the South. From the cotton Brooks brothers used to tailor its suits to the New York Stock Exchange, which was established in part to finance slavery-dependent enterprises. Enslavement, she emphasized, enriched U.S. president, members of Congress, Supreme Court justices, and many of the men whose faces are stamped on American currency. Quote, all but one of the people on our cash currency engaged in African slavery, she highlighted. Hannah Jones also drew a modern analogy to today's tech giants, noting that while a very small percentage of Americans own companies like Apple, Meta, or Amazon, their influence is inescapable.
And there you go. There it is. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like I said, I grew up with skinheads and stuff, right? When you have like these Cartier brothers, right? Do they think that those skinheads are going to accept them? Do they think that they're going to get to be part of society and that those skinheads are going to be like, no, those are the good black people? They don't believe in good black people. I grew up with these people. I know how these people do things. They don't go, oh, you're one of the good black ones. And that's the same when it comes to what's happening right now. Donald Trump and the tech oligarchs that back him, the ones that actually have a plan, not Donald Trump, the tech oligarchs have a plan, not Donald Trump. He's a clown. He's a distraction. The tech oligarchs, they're the ones with the plan. And it doesn't matter how much you polish their knob. It doesn't matter how much you tickle their balls with a feather. They don't care about you. They don't like you. They don't like having to see you. They don't like having to smell you. This is the second Gilded Age, and you are not going to be part of the party. We are just going right back to what you want to say. Only 2% of America owned slaves. First of all, that was wrong. But even if it was true, you're literally watching history repeat itself. And, you know, all the people that are like, hey, white people were slaves too. Hey, Chinese people were slaves too. Well, welcome. Welcome. Here we go again then.
It's a tiny percentage. I'm doubtful if it's even 1% of Americans who own those companies. She said, and yet no one would credibly argue that social media companies are not ubiquitous across American life.
Insane.
End quote. Her message was clear. Even if only a small minority of white Americans were literally enslavers, the system of slavery was the beating heart of the U.S. economy and a society that sent half of the country to war with the other to protect it. Quote, the times are too serious for us to proliferate a simplistic, unsophisticated, and childish understanding
Right there.
of the history of slavery, she concluded. And I would add to that, corrupt by intention. They're trying to corrupt the historical narrative intentionally.
100%.
All right, this is thoughts.
Yeah, why is Jillian Michaels talking about any of this? Why is she an authority? Like, how did she get invited to the CNN table?
Yeah, I agree with that too. First of all, Yasmin there, fucking spot on. We keep talking about this is idiocracy. This is idiocracy. I've said it before. I shouldn't be up here. Fucking, where are we at, man? Where are we at when I have to be up here? You know, like, I belong somewhere drinking a fucking glass of tequila and water and telling people my dumbass opinions. Like, you know, how far have we fallen when I'm the resistance? How far have we fallen when you know, I know some people will be like, don't put yourself down, don't put yourself down, but that's not what it is. I want people to understand that that's not what it is. There's supposed to be people that are better than me. They're supposed to, when Kyle Kalinske the other day said there are troops being sent to Venezuela and the only person covering it is my dumb ass on YouTube. Like, people would be like, no, don't put yourself down, Kyle. But I get what he's saying, man. I get what he's saying is we shouldn't be here. There is supposed to be people that have put their entire life work into being experts on these types of situations. Where the fuck have they gone? The death of intellectualism is not hyperbolic. It is happening. Why is Jillian Michaels talking about slavery? Why has rap music made its way to the Republican side and fucking became Tom McDonald and Samson? Why? Because it's capitalism. That's why. Capitalism has ruined humanity. I've said this before. When we talk about capitalism, people go, oh, so you're anti-capitalism? No. Capitalism is 100% the best economic driver for a country. But it is not humane. It lacks humanity. That is why the United States of America is the #1 economy in the world, and the people that live here are the 25th happiest country in the world. Because every one of us looks around and goes, you know, we have all these things, but none of us are really that happy. And it's because when all you live for is capitalism, you lose your humanity. That's the idea, is that nothing should ever, no form of government should ever just be that. Like, you need elements of socialism. You need elements of democracy. You need elements of capitalism. You can't have capitalism without these other things, and that's why we're at where we're at. Except for my ass, I don't make any money. I'm just here for the love of the fucking game. And, you know, there's something to that when she says, why is Jillian Michaels up here? Why has CNN brought Jillian Michaels on? And why would anybody, for the love of fucking Christ, ever repeat Jillian Michaels' opinions on fucking slavery? I remember one time a friend of mine, a family member actually, was quoting things from a book. And I said, what book is that? And they said, RFK Jr.'s book. And I said, this information seems suspect. Can you show me the sources? And I shit you not, this person sent me a picture of the sources. One of them being Rob Schneider. They didn't even understand what I meant when I said sources. I didn't mean Kevin Sorbo. I didn't mean Rob Schneider. I mean, where the fuck did you get the study from? And that is where we're at now. Quote your sources. Rob Schneider. Deuce Bigelow, Mel Gigolo? Okay.
Just watched that documentary about her work on The Biggest Loser, and oh my God, like I never watched that show, but she was terrible. Like she was a terrible person back then, and it seems she still is on something now. And even if less than 2% of white people own slaves, who cares? Okay, like we're always railing against the 1% in modern days, which is less than 2. 1% is less than 2. So currently today, also less than 2% of people, not just of all white people, but of all people, are controlling a handful of multinational corporations and holding lives, all of our lives and our planet hostage for the sake of their own further enrichment. It's a dumb argument because we're very mad about that 1% of people, because that 1% of people, they are very dangerous and they're very damaging. And the things that they are doing to the people and to our planet, they will have long lasting repercussions going forward. So I don't want to give credence to this whole argument that slavery wasn't that bad, which despite what Jillian Michaels may or may not be intending here, is the conversation that has emerged from all of this. I'm not going to entertain that discussion because it's so dumb. If Jillian Michaels needs something like this to be explained to her also, then again, why is she being invited to speak on things that she does not understand? And all of this is actually stemming from the fact that Trump said that the woke Smithsonian, that's what he called it, focuses too much on how bad slavery is, and he does not like that. He's already talking about replacing PBS with PragerU, and that PragerU clip went viral where a cartoon Christopher Columbus was saying that being enslaved was actually better for the natives that he conquered, rather because he could have killed them. So slavery really isn't the worst thing in the world. He was being very, very benevolent to the natives of these places in the Caribbean. And going back to the 2% argument, it doesn't matter. White populations in this country and in other slave owning and slave trading nations are still to this day benefiting from it. There are plenty of old money families whose trust funds are full of slave trade money. I was reading recently actually a Jane Austen book, and these rich Brits were talking about how the son was supposed to take over his father's work and how he was supposed to overlook all of his interests, is what they called it, in the Caribbean. I wonder what those were. The truth is the truth. You can frame it however you want. You can pretend that it didn't happen, or you can pretend that it wasn't as bad as the way it was, or you can even focus on other groups of people who were enslaved, which is an argument that they also try to use. And I also think that one's weird because it, on one hand, acknowledges how horrible slavery is while also trying to downplay the severity of Black slavery. But I will say, even if Trump does get his grips on the Smithsonian, and they've already been caught removing
impeachment
passages from documents that they don't like, and then they're like, oh, we had to put it back. It was just an oversight. So they're already trying to tamper with things. But I feel like even if he does get his way with the Smithsonian, I do feel like things will be corrected once his administration is out of office, just because the people who work at a place like the Smithsonian, that's their job, that's their livelihood, that's the work that they're passionate about, and they're going to make sure that things get corrected. I hope that's how I feel about that. So I am less worried about that. But this whole conversation and rhetoric, it's just one that we don't need to be having.
Yeah.
So here's my problem with what she's saying there. Don't worry, it'll all be fixed once Donald Trump is out of office. When's that? That's the real question. Because I'll tell you this. In Donald Trump's first term, he had people in his administration that were scared. They didn't want him to do certain things, like Mike Pence. Mike Pence, of all people. that didn't want him to do certain things, because if he did those things, they could ruin their political careers and possibly even their lives. But this administration, this term, these people currently that are involved in Donald Trump's administration, they don't seem so scared. Pam Bondi just keeps doing whatever Donald Trump wants her to do. Todd Blanche is literally having conversations with Ghislaine Maxwell. You got to ask yourself, when are these people going to be out of power? Because they don't seem scared. They don't seem... You've got one or two things that are going on here. One, they don't intend to relinquish control. Or two, they just think that shit's so bad over on the left that they don't think that they'll ever lose control through democratic means in the future. That's fucking scary. Yeah, exactly. What I just said there. They don't intend to ever be out. They don't. They don't think it's going to happen. Something has convinced them of that, and I guarantee you it's tech oligarchs. Tech oligarchs have convinced them that they don't need to be scared. But I wanted to talk about something else, because I think people are underestimating the economic issues that we're facing. And I think that's because people don't understand economics. I think that people, I said this on my stream to my audience the other day, and I'll say this to you guys on this stream as well. If you don't know what the producer price index is, you should look at it. It is a forward-facing economic indicator on what producers are paying for goods that are later going, those prices are going to trickle down, because that's the only thing that does trickle down, by the way, to the consumer. So the consumer price index, which is different than the core price index, you should also know what those two indicators are. The core price index being minus energy and groceries, because they're super volatile, and the consumer price index being what you pay for everything across the country. And the reason I'm telling you this now is because the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is the department that generally releases this information, was just taken over by a guy who thinks that we shouldn't be reporting these statistics anymore. So it's best to look at that information now. The Producer Price Index has cut 350 indexes. Therefore, you will no longer see reporting on any of that. And by the way, this is not specific to just this administration. It's just like everything with Trump, he's made it that much worse. Over the last couple decades, we have been cutting down the size of these departments and making these statistics a little bit harder to report accurately. But Donald Trump has eviscerated these departments. He has made these departments almost non-functional. And when you take 350 indexes and you toss them in the trash for the Producer Price Index, the PPI, you are legitimately fucking with information that determines what things are going to do in the future for consumers. When you look at the Consumer Price Index, so the Producer Price Index went up by 1%, 1 point. That's huge. That's gigantic. That means that most likely in the near future, prices will be going up for consumers. Prices are already going up for consumers, as the Consumer Price Index went up, I think, 0.3 points, which, once again, doesn't sound like a lot, but actually is. It is. It's a huge, huge increase. When you couple that with lies and shadiness, and you look at the fact that, like, Donald Trump and his tariffs, right? He's not allowed. The executive branch is not allowed to unilaterally establish tariffs. He used an emergency act, which is meant to give the president powers when America is under attack from some type of outside source. He used that to determine that emergencies are happening because of America's debt. A debt, by the way, that he himself has increased by something like $13 trillion in his 2 terms so far. But that it's a crisis. Like all crises, it's manufactured by him to be used by him. But here's the important part. He's not allowed to do that. The Congress, our Congress, owns the purse strings. They determine whether or not taxes go up, taxes go down, And tariffs are a tax. It's a regressive tax, a tax that the middle class pays. And currently, courts are deciding whether or not that's legal. And one court has already determined that Donald Trump does not have the power to establish the tariffs that he has established. And one thing that Donald Trump has said that is true in this administration, and it's probably the only thing that he said that is true, is if these courts overturn these tariffs, we are going into a Great Depression. It's one that he created, and I'm not quite sure that he didn't do it on purpose. The tariffs were a bad idea from the very beginning. They were a bad idea from the very beginning, and they should have been stopped by our Congress, our feckless fucking Congress, our feckless fucking senators. Should have been stopped then. Because now we rest on the edge of a decision that most likely, in a judicial sense, is the correct decision to overturn all of those trade agreements, to overturn all of those tariffs. And now we're going to be sitting across the table from Canada and China and every other country in the fucking world after we just shit all over them. And they're going to go, oh, you, all that shit you did to us? Oh, now you want us to play fair? So anyways, I wanted to watch this video. I haven't watched this video. Maybe it has something to do with this, maybe not. Most of the time we're talking about the same things, me and Kyle, me and Benjamin. So this is Trump's depression is coming. I'd like to hear Kyle's 2 cents on this, and we'll see if we're on the same page here. As always, I don't watch these, so we're going to find out. Maybe Kyle has a whole different point of view.
All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I hope you're ready to have some fun today because we're going to be doing exactly that. So in just a second, we start off a wee bit serious because the Trump depression is upon us. We're beginning to see the red flags. It's looking ugly, so I have some data that we'll talk about on that front. Then we'll get to Israel is seizing the entire West Bank, building new settlements. The U.S. is blessing them on that. And then we also have some psychopaths in Israel, religious fundamentalist freaks, who are trying to usher in end times with a red heifer.
Yep.
I wish I was kidding.
Dude, I like when I'm the person that gets to talk about this stuff first. I love seeing Kyle Kalinske talk about something that I've been talking about for like fucking 2 months. You know, some people would get mad, but like I said, I'm up here for the love of the game. I've been talking about that fucking thing since my boss told me that that was a real thing. Let's go, Kyle. Let's talk about the red heifer. I hope he points out that they get it from Texas. It can't have a single white hair, guys. It can't have a single white hair. You guys think I'm lying about this shit. You guys think I'm making this up. It's okay. I thought the person who told me it was making this shit up too. And then I looked it up, and it's real.
But we live in hell world, and these people rule us, bro. They rule us. So we'll talk about that. Then later on in the show, we have Tim Dillon finally wakes up to Trump's bullshit. He even calls out Alex Jones low-key. I'll play that clip for you. And fake.
Alex Jones is big sad. He thinks Kankles McTaco Tits is going to pass away real soon. We can only hope.
Justin Bieber impersonator type guy. He ends up duping all of Las Vegas and performing. That's an amazing story. You know, I don't usually cover like pop culture type stuff, but this one was too good. I couldn't let it go. So we'll talk about that as well. All right, you guys know the deal. Everybody please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. Also, we're getting close to 2 million subs, bro. Help get us over the hump.
2 million?
Help get us to the big 2 million number. I really appreciate that.
Bro.
Please support the show on Patreon, and thank you to everybody who does do that. $2 a month or $5 a month goes a long way. I've never talked to any advertiser, never done an ad read. Very proud of that fact. Zero selling out on this show, bro. And you guys supported from the ground up. Again, I'm deeply appreciative for that.
I'll give you guys a little bit more on that, too. Special incense, certain utensils on a certain hill. There's also two valleys over there where they believe that Donald Trump is going to lead an army of infidels in a fight against, I believe it's Muslims, and that he will have 666 on his head, whether that's figurative or not. Like, dude, look all this shit up. There's literally 2 valleys where they believe this war is going to happen. This is why all this shit's getting encouraged. I literally said to my boss one day, I was like, I don't get how Republicans all of a sudden became pro-Jewish, dude. Like, he's Jewish, you know, so he knows. Like, and he was like, dude, do you not understand the prophecies? Do you not know what these people believe? And he told me some of the shit. He didn't tell me about the two valleys. A different person told me about this. It's fucking wild.
So sign
It
up
is
on
fucking
Substack for
wild.
Crystal Kylan,
It's
friends.
fucking
We
wild.
have Richard Ojeda coming on this week, the world's most charismatic man who's
Richard
running for
Ojeda.
office. Again,
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk to him. That'll be a lot of fun. So sign up on Substack for that. And
Me and Ojeda have talked about punching Nazis before. I love me some Richard Ojeda.
go support the Corrin's World YouTube channel and subscribe over there because we're doing live Kylan Corrins every Monday at 8:30. All right, y'all, let's dive into it. So let's start with this. We were told when Trump launched his trade war and did his tariffs, we were told it's going to bring back American manufacturing. You're going to have jobs exploding all across this country. They're going to explode. Well, guess what? The data's
Not
in.
happening.
How many companies moved 100% of their manufacturing to the U.S. because of the tariffs? Ready? 0. Donut. Zilch.
Yep.
Zilch. Nada.
Because it wasn't what it was meant to
So
be.
the thing we told you would happen is what actually happened. And what Trump said would happen was dead wrong. Dead wrong. So as Melanie Diarigo points out here, $3,800 is how much more the average U.S. family will spend this year because of tariffs.
Yep.
So no new manufacturing jobs, but you got to spend $3,800 more. Now, by the way, it's actually even.
And I see somebody, saying that they're out for the night, and I appreciate you, Snicks. I do. I appreciate you. And I know that it's depressing. I get that. I understand it. But, I laugh a lot. You guys know my whole point is that we win this battle by mocking the absurdity, right? But sometimes I do have to make sure that people understand that there is a plan behind this, that this is serious business, because I get both sides, right? I get people that come in that are like, you laugh too much at this shit, and then, like I said, this is nothing against the Snicks. This is nothing against you. I completely fucking understand. It's been a tough day for me too. But I get both sides, right? I get people that come in, they're like, man, why are you always laughing at this stuff? And I'm like, because it's about mocking mass psychosis. That's my lane in all of this has been to mock mass psychosis, right? It's what Gavin Newsom is doing right now. He stole that shit from me, by the way. But on the other hand of that, I also get people that come in when I am doing like serious stuff, and they're like, man, like a lot of this stuff's depressing. And it's like, because you need balance. You need to have both. We need to know that what is going on is very, very serious. And we need to also at the same time be able to laugh in the face of our enemies. We do. We need to be able to do both. Because I've always said when I was younger, I always said, like, the thing about me is I laugh a lot, but you put your hands on me and you're going to fucking find out. Like, that was always me. Like, you could talk to me, you could talk shit to me. I laughed the whole time. You put your hands on me, you're going to find out. That's balance. So we got to always remember, like that a lot of times, I'm going to be laughing, I'm going to have a good time, but I'm also serious. And when I'm being serious, I still like to laugh.
Even worse than this. It's worse than this. Because Trump outsourced 200,000 jobs
right
his
there.
first term in office. And then this time he gets in there. One of the first things he does is he cuts off the funding for Joe Biden's bills. So the CHIPS Act, for example, the infrastructure bill, for example. So Biden was creating 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. And Trump gets in there, cuts off the funding for those bills, and boom, now we don't get those jobs. So he lost us 200,000 manufacturing jobs in the first term, lost us 800,000 in the second term.
Yep.
Right? And now we know the tariffs are going to cost you $3,800 more on top of all that. So he could not have been more wrong every single step of the way. But we're just getting started. So on the manufacturing front, we're cooked. And in fact, there were some other companies that were going to build factories here, and they announced when.
Yeah, isn't it crazy too that like there's no fucking Trump supporters talking about this? Like nobody on his side of the fucking aisle is like concerned that there's no fucking jobs because they know. They know. They knew this was fucking false advertisement the whole time. I've seen people in my comments over at my Live Clips channel, right? Where dudes will say, like, we don't really give a shit. All we voted for Trump for was to make you guys cry. Like, literally, these people are so insecure, so sad, so hopeless, so much of a fucking disappointment to their own family members and friends that all they have left, the only thing that they have left is hoping that they can make liberals cry. And they're not even winning with that. Their dude is not exactly, he's not doing a great job. Like, this is where we're at as a country, is every one of these dipshits came out here and said it's going to bring back manufacturing to the United States of America, and it didn't happen. He's a loser. And just like you guys have been telling us forever, and you know what, we were wrong. We kept saying, why do you think Donald Trump is anything like you? Donald Trump is a billionaire. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. Donald Trump has never been working class or middle class. What do you mean Donald Trump is just like you? We were wrong. We were wrong. Donald Trump is just like you. He's a loser, and he protects pedophiles. Yeah, just like you do.
Trump did the tariffs. They came out and announced, well, we can't build them anymore because we can't afford the raw materials to build the factories now because of the tariffs. Okay, so he's cooking us in 1,000 ways to Sunday. More. July had the highest number of corporate bankruptcies.
Hold on. Look at that orange face paint. Somebody pointed this out the other day, and I'm actually going to call him out on this. That his orange makeup has actually been blending a lot better with his hairline. But that fucking Oompa Loompa hairline going on right there, that fat-ass pie wedge triangle of fucking, of a hairline, you can see here, somebody didn't blend well. He probably doesn't like it when they touch that far up on his scalp, right? He's like, there's nothing there. There's lots of hair. Don't do that. Don't put it in my hair. There's no hair, sir. No, there's totally a lot of hair there. I have so much hair on top of my head. I just had to point that out.
Bankruptcies since the COVID pandemic in 2020.
Did you guys see the dumb shit from Bed Bath & Beyond? Bed Bath & Beyond saying that they won't join California. They won't come to California. Anybody that trades stocks, I trade stocks. Anybody that trades stocks knows that Bed Bath & Beyond is fucking bankrupt. That they've literally already committed bankruptcy. Bed Bath & Beyond is a fucking shell of a company. Like, dude, you don't want to participate in the 30+ million people that are in California? Okay. That sounds like a reason for you to be fucking bankrupt. You don't want to participate in the 4th largest economy in the world? I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna shoot some fucking darts into the dark. I'm gonna guess that might be the bad decisions that have led to your bankruptcy. There are so many private equity companies that are buying up these fucking companies like Walgreens, Rite Aid, Bed Bath & Beyond, and they are literally just fucking vampirically sucking the blood out of them until there's nothing left, and then they sell off the fixtures and the land. Because that's the world that we have entered in the United States of America, is private equity buys things, just uses them up. The people that work there, they don't give 2 fucks about. They use them up, and then they close the stores, sell the fixtures, sell the land, and fire the people that work there. And fucking MAGA's like, that's what we voted for.
So it actually eclipsed that, which means that Donald Trump is worse for the economy than a fucking global pandemic, y'all. That is mind-boggling. That's mind-boggling. The U.S. has now seen 446 large bankruptcy filings in 2025, officially 12% above pandemic levels in 2020. In July alone, the U.S. saw 71 bankruptcies, marking the highest single month total since July 2020. And then
Brother Del Monte went bankrupt. Del Monte has been around for like 150 fucking years. Del Monte, gone. Donald Trump killed one of the fucking oldest fucking corporations that has existed in American history. No more fruit cocktail. I really like those French style green beans too. That was kind of my style. My wife likes fresh produce. And the fact that I work in the health food industry is really going to make people sad that I'm over here talking about canned vegetables. But I am from the trailer park. Like Donald Trump was like Somebody was like, we have the greatest economy in the world. There's no way somebody can fuck this up. And Donald Trump was like, bet. Bet. This is Curtis Yarvin, dude. The oligarchs literally knew who they were getting when they were stuffing dollar bills in Donald Trump's pockets like he's a fucking cheap stripper. All right? They knew what they were getting. Look, there's one thing you'll have to say about these oligarchs is they know business. They're not the smartest people. That's a misunderstanding. They're not. They are the shadiest people. They're the most corrupt people. They're the most evil people. And they know a mark when they fucking see one. And when Donald Trump's orange clown ass came dancing into the fucking scene, he jumped on that pole. They were like, holy fuck, let's go to the ATM. I need to get some dollars. This is Curtis Yarvin. Do not mistake that. This is Curtis Yarvin. This is Jeff Bezos. This is Zuckerberg. This is the Project 2025 people. They might not be in the same gang, but they both know who the mark is. They're just both trying to figure out which person gets to take advantage of his ass the most, so that way when this all fucking collapses, they get to be the person that takes over. And here's the thing. They don't want the whole place. The tech oligarchs, they don't want all of America. They know it's too big. They know it's too unwieldy. They know that it's like too much work to try to deal with all this shit. And when you take somebody like the Project 2025 people, they don't want all of America. They want the religious sections. They want to be able to institute the rule of law that they have, that they want. They don't want godless heathens. They want to be in control of women in the Bible Belt. So if you think that these people aren't going to just split it up after Donald Trump burns it all down, I have news for you.
They do a whole tweet thread about this, and they basically explain, like, look, yes, it's the trade war. The trade war is the culprit, and that's pretty fucking obvious. They also go on to point out, like, the different companies that got hit as a result of this. Unfortunately, a lot of them are like, 1990s and 2000s, like legendary type companies, like Forever 21, for example. In fact, let me see if I can find it. Several once popular 1990s and 2000s brands are included in the list of bankruptcies. Forever 21, Rite Aid, Party City, Claire's. I think like these earrings I'm wearing, I think are from Claire's, and they cost like fucking like $10 or whatever the fuck. All going under.
Yeah, even when we talk about the de minimis exemptions, even though like I understand why that's good for American business, right? The de minimis exemption being that certain things under I think $800 or something like that do not qualify for tariffs and fees, and you use Temu or Shine for a lot of that stuff, right? So here's the problem. It's just like the idea that bringing back manufacturing to America is helpful. If we would have done that 40 years ago, yes, that would have been true. But this isn't an industry-based economy anymore. It's a service-based economy. We sell services. That's what we make money off of. It costs too much money to bring back manufacturing to America to make it worthwhile because Americans can't pay for it. We struggle. Think about this. The middle class struggles whilst being able to buy things that are from Temu and Shine. The middle class struggles when there weren't tariffs. And now we've added tariffs. We've took away the de minimis deduction. So we no longer, you're not going to be able to get, something from Temu that's usually in America it's $20 for $6, right? If you brought back, let's say, an iPhone, I think this is one of the more popular things that they talk about, right? And you built an iPhone in America, you're going to have to pay minimum wage. What do we want as the middle class? What do we want as Americans in the working class? We want higher minimum wages. What else do we want in the working class? We want health care. What do we think in the middle class has been one of the most beneficial things to America, to its citizens, since the beginning of America? Unions, workers' rights. We fucking fought and died for them. What do you think is going to happen when you have a unionized well paid, given health care, given pensions, workforce, building iPhones. They cost a lot fucking more money. And this is it. These people, these politicians, they fucked up. They got us here. These corporations own these politicians. These corporations have it within their means to make life easier on the working class. They choose not to. There's nothing about what is going on right now that isn't part of these people's plans. It's all a part of it. They're just lying to you. They're not bringing back industry, and they don't give two shits about you.
So directly because of the trade war, it's now happening. Everything's unraveling. All right, we got more. Let's talk a little bit about the inflation portion of this. Listen to this.
Wholesale prices for domestic fresh and dry vegetables skyrocketed nearly 40% in July compared to a year ago.
You normally don't see a big move in 1 month that
Never.
much. I mean, the biggest 1 month move for a
is
summer month
insane.
since I think 1947. That's a big move. Three things happening here: weather and drought. So
I work in the health food industry. 40% is insane.
you've got supply issues, worker shortages, and you've got farmers saying that there are fear on some of these farms of deportation, so they're having a hard time getting some of these crops in, and then tariffs on imported vegetables and food.
So climate change, mass deportations, and trade war.
Yep.
Those are the things that are leading to the spike. In other words, all things that the right is making worse.
Yep. If you guys like olive oil, so Spain is one of the places that we get a large percentage of our olive oil from. Spain has had something like 4 years of bad drought because of climate change. And look, like, you can be a conservative and be like, the earth goes through cycles, bro. That's fine. Like, okay, fine, sure. Okay, what if I say, yes, you're right, the earth goes through cycles, which that is true. It's still happening. Olive oil went through the fucking roof because of droughts. Immigration is getting worse because of climate change. The things that are going on in this world right now are 100% being affected by climate change, and you can stick your fucking head in the sand and act like it's not happening, or you can recognize that it is and you can do something about it. These people are very simple, uncurious, unintelligent people. Something like climate change is too big of an issue for them to ever fucking understand, and they should have never gotten to get behind the wheel of this country, much less any other country. But to go back to what I was saying earlier about the age of understanding, we have a decision to make. During the age of information, you were given all of this information. And during the age of understanding, you are now being asked, what are you going to do with it? You've been told that the climate changes. Most of us that have a fully functioning frontal lobe understand that it is influenced by human beings. What are you going to do with that information? It's the age of information versus the age of understanding. And just like Ben was talking about before he left on his show, the way that they're combating the age of understanding is by filling the cups full of misinformation. 40% increase in the price of produce is insane.
It's insane. Like, they're destroying the country on purpose.
That's something that can make prices rise for domestic as well. So this is producer level. Will it be passed on to the consumer? Sure. Unclear yet, but we'll know pretty quickly. Very thin margins for food items. Yeah. So this means that grocery store chains will have to eat the cost, pun intended, or we'll have to pass it on, and we'll know pretty soon.
All right, so that's just vegetables. We discussed on this show the other day, coffee. Prices for coffee have skyrocketed, minimum 14%. I've seen as high as like 25%. It's happening, y'all. It's all happening.
And it's about to go up again. Just so you know, so Trump's a posturer, right? First and foremost, Trump is a facade of a strong man. So studies have been done on tariffs, right? And those tariffs have shown that only about 48% of the goods that are coming through are actually being tariffed right now. Donald Trump's saying all these things are happening, but they're not, right? And we're already feeling the squeeze. We're already starting to. Like I said, PPI jumped by 1%, which is huge. Produce went up by 40%. That's huge. Everything in this country, CPI-wise, has been going up since January of this year, except for televisions. That's weird. Turns out the thing that keeps you glued to it is getting cheaper, easier to access, just like misinformation. If you think about it this way, if only 48% of what he's talking about is actually being tariffed, and then you look at the fact that companies have already said that they've been eating this for the most part up to this point. Most companies have said that they're only passing about 13 to 25% of the tariffs cost to the consumer. But almost every government watchdog currently that monitors these types of statistics is saying that this is only possible for them to do in the short term, because tariffs are only good short term, just like price controls are only good short term. Tariffs are only good short term because eventually companies have to adjust. So many companies right now believe that within the next 6 months that they are going to have to start pushing 60 to 70% of the total cost of tariffs onto consumers. So if only 48% of tariffs are actually being tariffed at this point, and that goes to 75, 80, 100% because Donald Trump can't help himself, and then the cost of those tariffs goes from 13 to 25% to being 65 to 75%, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? Coffee is already through the roof, and a lot of these coffee companies have been eating the fucking cost because they know that if they don't eat the cost right now, they won't make any money at all. These people do not make a fuck ton of money. These are not corporations like Walmart, Costco, or Target. And Target is suffering so fucking bad right now that they just fired their CEO. It's very important for people to know that right now we live on the knife's edge in our economy. And it is a fucking long fall on the other side of this.
How about this one? Breaking. A home buyer now must earn $114,627 a year to afford the median priced U.S. home per Redfin. This means the average U.S. household income would require a 42% raise to afford the median home. In other words, homeownership is officially a luxury. Homeownership is a luxury. The American dream is so cooked. Yep. It is so dead. It is so gone. It's never been more dead and gone. And I think everybody senses that. Everybody feels that. Everybody knows that because everybody's struggling. And when there's no hope, that's when you see this increase in political extremism. That's when you see people turning to, some solutions that are pretty out there because they know, hey, politics as usual hasn't served us well. Politics as usual has actually destroyed us. So that's incredible. All right, I still got another one for you. So this one is kind of sad, but it's also, a bright red flashing indicator that we're in for a world of hurt.
Oh, no. Cal, I'm already being depressing. You can't be more depressing. But we can't double down on depression. Oh, shit. Speaking of homes, did y'all see the Arkansas bill that wants to make it so you have to prove you're white for housing? Visora, let me tell you something. We can triple down. No, we are tripling down. We are tripling down, Visora. I just tripled down. I want to just share something with you, Visora, right now. When I first started doing this shit about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, people on the left would come into my stuff and they'd be like, yo, did you know that like Trump said this thing? And I go, hey, guys, Trump says a lot of stupid shit. We don't need to make things up. All right. We stick to the fucking facts. And then over time, shit has gotten so dumb that left-wing people will come into my chat and they'll be like, Trump said this? And I'm like, hey, we don't need to, oh, fuck, he said that. That's where we've gotten in this fucking country, is that the Onion has nothing left. There's no satire anymore. People now come into my chat and say things, and I'm like, I'm going to look that up later, and it's going to be true. I want to believe that this is just hyperbolic. I want to believe it's out of context. I want to see that it's just a clip that does not actually exist. And every fucking time now, I go and look it up and I'm like, nah, that shit's true. Okay. All right. That's where we're at. I got to go load my gun.
Coming very shortly.
Hi, everyone. I thought I'd share another non-traditional economic indicator that is sounding an alarm, and it's absolutely heart-wrenching. And this economic indicator is a surge in pet owner surrenders. Shelters across the U.S. are reporting a surge in surrenders with financial hardship as the primary driver. The financial hardships are happening as there are job losses, as the everyday cost of living has gone up, and also...
Ooh, I wonder if she's going to talk about the continuing degradation of the American dollar. That really gets me going nowadays. The loss of value in the American dollar is definitely part of... if you guys have never seen Stephen Moran's article, so Stephen Moran is one of Donald Trump's cabinet members that believes, and I could be fucking this up, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but I believe it's by devaluing the dollar, it helps to reset global trade in a way that in some way will make it's either manufacturing easier or less important for America's economy. You should read this. You should read Stephen Moran before he became a cabinet member for Donald Trump. You should go and read the article that he wrote. I think it's for the Financial Times. I'm not sure about that part, though. I'll see if I can find it and see if I can link it.
The cost of caring for a pet have increased.
Aww.
The cost of pet food and treats, beds and
there goes my
toys.
dog.
The cost of caring pet food and treats, all affected
Sorry,
by
you gotta
tariffs. So institutions like the Animal Care Center of New York has suspended all intake because of capacity issues.
Jesus
The Charlotte
Christ.
Mecklenburg Animal Care and Control in North Carolina has reported a 43% surge in animal surrenders versus this time last year. And the Chicago Animal Care and Control has reported that if their surrenders continue at the pace they're at in 2025, they will see 3 times the surrenders in 2025 versus 2024 and 6.
Okay, look, I could give 2 shits about human beings, but this shit's a little too much, okay? I like animals, dude.
Times the surrenders versus 2023. And on top of this, adoption rates are also declining, which is heartbreaking. So if you have the resources and
This dude
ability
can't
to
leave
adopt a new
anything.
pet, your local shelter likely really needs your help right now.
So we're already in a recession, bro. We're already in a recession. It's already rough out there, but I hope everybody's ready because this is going to get a lot worse. This is going to get a lot.
My fucking Chiweenie is gonna... By the way, that's a dog. Okay, guys. Fucking stop. Bunch of 12-year-olds, okay? It's a real dog, okay? Well, it's not actually a real dog, but it looks like one. The Chiweenie is being affected by Donald Trump's economy. What the fuck is going on? Like, if you couldn't tell me, like 10 years ago, that there would be a time in America's history where shit would get so bad that the animals would be feeling it. This is in America's history where shit would get so... This is the timeline.
Worse. And I know all you guys, because I've experienced this too myself, I know all you guys have stories from your personal lives of, hey, this guy I know.
Oh, damn. I'm just now noticing that Kyle Kalinski's dog isn't in the background. This shit's about to get real dark, isn't it?
This guy I know who's a friend of my friend or this family member or whatever, somebody you know is feeling it. Somebody you know got laid off. Somebody you know is desperately trying to downsize or being evicted or whatever the case may be. Because, your government effectively stabbed you in the back. Your government effectively screwed you over, right? Every decision, I've made this point 1,000 times, but I'm going to make it 1,000 more. Every decision Trump is making, it's like he's trying to destroy the country. If he was a Manchurian candidate, there would be literally no difference between how he's acting now and if he was a Manchurian candidate. He might as well be. Because, and here's another big part, which again, very few people talk about, but they should, is how much longer is the dollar going to be the world reserve currency? How much longer is that going to be the case?
That's in Stephen Moran's article. I gotta find it, and I'll link it. Maybe I'll hop in chat after I get done here, and I'll find Stephen Moran's article. And this is Donald Trump's dude. In fact, I think I could be wrong about this, but he might be putting him forward for Jerome Powell's position in May. By the way, By the way, Jerome Powell, his tenure is up in May. And if you don't understand, like, there's so much to the economy that people should be looking at. And I know it's depressing. I know it's not fun, but this is all very important stuff. Is that if you look at 87, if you look at 2008, if you look at 29, there are economic indicators that are flashing red from those times that are also that are happening now. The devaluing the dollar followed by the dropping of interest rates is a horrifically bad idea, and it only appeals to really simple-minded Republicans that don't know what that means. A bunch of people that aren't going to be taking loans out on anything to actually benefit from any type of interest rates are asking for interest rates to be lowered, and they don't know why they are, because they just know that Charlie Kirk told them that Jerome Powell's an asshole. Look, I don't know one thing about Jerome Powell's politics. For all I know, Jerome Powell is anti-choice. He wants immigrants deported from this country. He could be a fucking KKK member for all I know, guys. But the one thing that I can tell you is that across the political spectrum, everybody agrees that Jerome Powell has done a fantastic fucking job with the American economy through a pandemic, through a global pandemic, and has helped, with the help of Joe Biden, keep this country out of a recession, which is insane. Every economist was like, we're going into a recession. And when he is no longer a part of the Fed in May and Donald Trump replaces him with some fucking Fox News anchor, if you think shit's bad now, it's about to get a lot fucking worse.
Because I got news for you. Everybody fucking hates us now. We're not good to our word. That alone sort of destroys you in the long run.
Crypto.
Pulled out of the Iran agreement, pulled out of the Paris Climate
That's a
Agreement,
good call.
stopped abiding by the USMCA, which was the trade deal with Canada that Trump himself negotiated. Then he pulled out of his own trade deal, right? Our word is worth nothing. It's worth a dick.
NAFTA.
And so in a scenario like that, the rest of the world goes, we don't trust the Americans. We can't rely on the Americans. The Americans are liars. The Americans are psychos. The Americans are unhinged. So they're working around America, making deals with each other, looking more towards China to be a global leader. And in that scenario, they're merely tolerating the dollar at the moment as the world reserve currency. But, you know, they're not going to, nobody's going to keep investing.
By the way, the Japanese are the people that own the most of our debt. I want to say $800 billion. Could be more than that actually now. But the Japanese are the ones that own the largest amount of our debt. And during the trade negotiations, the threat was made that they would sell off their shares of our debt, which would cause the American economy to plummet. The value of the dollar would go right in the fucking toilet. When Donald Trump is posturing and making all these, you know, boisterous, hyperbolic claims about how much of a strongman he is, let me tell you something I told my kids a long time ago. When you're sitting there and you got somebody that's getting physical, that they're talking a lot of shit, if they're loud and they talk a lot of shit, you don't need to be scared you don't need to be scared of that person. That person's not scary. They're a peacock. They're fucking showing you their feathers because they don't want to fight. They just want you to be too scared to fight, and they want to be a bully. And that's what Donald Trump is. The person you need to be afraid of is the fucking person that owns the majority of your debt and is looking across at you and going, you want to keep doing this? I don't have to say shit, because eventually I'm just going to punch you in the mouth. And you ain't going to expect it because you've been talking this whole fucking time. That's the person you should be scared of. You should be scared of the quiet person. Because that person already knows what they're about to do. Donald Trump doesn't scare anybody. The only person that Donald Trump is tough to is MAGA, because they're the type of people that look like a loud, boisterous, hyperbolic, bombastic bully like Trump and go, man, I wish I was like that. Because if I had power, that's what I would do. Like, if Japan wants to tank America, which would not be in Japan's best interest, by the way, but if they were Donald Trump, if they were thin-skinned and insecure like the President of the United States of America, they would have sold off our debt. And they were like, fuck it. Because that's what Donald Trump's doing.
Investing in the U.S. Nobody's going to keep. And the other thing is, and this is an even longer conversation, but now we're beginning to see some evidence. There's some articles that came out over the past couple days, some evidence that the AI bubble is about to burst. And woo, buddy, when that bubble bursts, ooh, it's going to be a lot of pain, dog.
Once again.
It's going to be a lot of pain. I don't know how many of you were old enough to remember this, but the internet bubble burst. Remember that? I believe it was in the late 90s that the internet bubble burst. And that was a lot of pain for a lot of people, right? Then you had the subprime.
Every time that there has been a financial crisis, it has been because of different types of, sort of was bringing up Bitcoin earlier. It's unregulated monetary situation. So like during, he was about to say subprime mortgages, right? That was because the real estate industry came up with this cool idea where investors would prop up the loans of these subprime mortgages. And of course, nobody had any monitoring of what was going on with this. And these banks were giving away loans to people that couldn't afford them. Once investors recognized that this was happening, they pulled out en masse. What that does, especially in the internet age and the technology age, is there are bars that are set for selling off stocks and assets when it reaches a certain level. When that happened, it triggered a massive amount of sell-off, which of course cascaded and became worse and worse. Bitcoin is the same thing. The moment that people are no longer have faith in Bitcoin as being the digital currency, so you see all these other currencies that are coming out that aren't necessarily competing, but eventually you're going to have people that come out. This is how capitalism works, that want to compete with Bitcoin as being that currency. Once that happens and somebody decides, oh, you know what, Bitcoin isn't the future, and they pull out a fuck ton of assets, that's going to trigger other people pulling out their assets, which is going to cause Bitcoin to drop to fucking zero. And that's going to cause another problem. And that's the same thing with AI. The moment that people recognize, oh, a lot of this AI shit isn't going to survive. Craft breweries are a great example. During COVID, people started a bunch of craft breweries because craft breweries were really, you could sell $18, $20, $25 four packs of 16-ounce beer, and people were buying them up like crazy. And now the industry itself has flattened out and declined, and people are having to close those breweries because there's nobody that wants to buy the alcohol. In fact, alcohol consumption in this country has reduced by something like 10 or 20% at this point. The alcohol industry is actually having a really hard time, just like everybody else is. You're going to see the same thing happen with AI. A bunch of people that started AI companies because it was the cool thing, the hip thing to be into, are going to go under. And when those things go under, people are going to get scared and they are going to take their money out of those assets. And there's going to be a couple places that survive. And for the most part, most of these things are going to go under. And the people that were involved in it are going to lose a fuck ton of money. It's just like what he's talking about with the dot-com bubble.
Mortgage crisis in the Great Recession in 2008, a lot of pain for a lot of people. Pandemic, same thing. But now, basically one of the few things propping up the economy is this colossal bubble, all of this malinvestment that's happening with these AI companies that are promising the sun, the moon, and the stars. They're promising AI is going to solve every problem we've ever had, and it's going to suck your dick, and it's going to, finger your asshole, and it's going to do whatever, right? And come to find out, a lot of these AI models are absolute trash. Not only that, China has already proven they're way ahead of the U.S. So at some point, the fun's going to stop, the party's going to stop, and the bubble's going to burst. And then at that point, we're going to have a massive economic downturn. Massive.
By the way, the reason that you see AI companies, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, whoever you want to, Thiel, whatever tech oligarch you want to throw in there, right? The reason that they're panicking and they're doing what they're doing, both with Donald Trump and with the attempts at getting unregulated AI, right? Like that was in the Big Beautiful Bill. Fuck, somebody, don't tell Donald Trump I said that. He will be like, this is the big, beautiful year. The big, beautiful decade. Fuck. The reason that there was so much panic over all this is that China has this weird mix of free market capitalism and communism, right? They figured out something that Americans couldn't figure out. and that is that government shouldn't be one type of government. It should be dependent on what your goal is, a mixture of multiple types of government. Now, China is, you know, and I'm trying not to be hyperbolic about this, but they're a world domination country. So is Russia. Different ways of going about it. And the way they're going about it, China's going about it, is by owning the technological sphere, right? Like if they get out ahead of us on green energy, they own the green energy industry. That puts them ahead economically from us because now they have green energy, it's cheaper, and they're selling the technology. They already did that. China's already well ahead of us on green energy. We were catching up under Biden, by the way, but we fucked that up, so that's over. But AI is the other realm in which they want to be like this, right? And what they are doing now in this country is they want unregulated AI because they're afraid that they're not going to catch China. They're afraid that the Americans here, the Musks and the Zuckerbergs, have fallen too far behind, and they think the only way to catch up is to have unregulated AI to be able to do whatever the fuck they want. And I can't tell you, but Visora will. How bad that is, not just for the country, but for the entire globe. It's not something that anybody should want. Look, America, you have to understand this. Americans, if I can just speak to you, I don't give a fuck who you voted for. You have to hear these words. It's okay to not be number one. It is not worth sacrificing human beings. It is not worth putting people in the middle class in even worse straits. It is not worth selling out the future generations so that way America can stay number one. You don't get anything for being number one, or at least the middle class doesn't. Ultra wealthy people do. But guess what? If America isn't number one, they'll just make money off of China or Russia. It doesn't matter because they're not actually attached to me and you. They would rather be in the driver's seat in this country, but they don't have to be. If there's fucking anything I can say to bridge the gap between political party or voter partisanship, it's not worth it. Giving unfettered access to these tech oligarchs, to technology like AI in an unregulated sphere in which they make the rules and nobody else does, it's not fucking worth it. America can be like number 5. Well, California will still be number 4, but... All right, guys. Well, it's just about that time. Visora is next. I've just kept... Oh, somebody else is putting these up. Good job, guys. Good job, guys. Good job. Thank you for putting those up. Slacking. All right, guys. I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you for all of you guys over on my channel, and thank you guys for being here on this space. I hopefully will have some news about the Unfuck America tour soon. I appreciate you guys. I'm super thankful for all you guys being here. And all right, well, I hope you guys are ready for Visora, and I will probably be in chat. All right, guys. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you next time.
All right. Hey ho, let's go. Yep, I think we are recording. All right. Hey ho, let's go. Hello, Noise Filter crew. It's so good to see you all. You ever wonder what's powering vaccines and cancer treatments and all those life-changing medical breakthroughs? Well, spoiler alert, it's not a secret lab full of mad scientists sipping coffee all at night. No, it's the NIH, National Institutes for Health, and it's quietly humming complex engine behind the scenes of scientific discovery. But this engine, it's sputtering and the fuel is running low. Now, you might not have noticed, but in the past 6 months, over 5,500 research projects have been halted. That's right. That's 5,500 questions are now left unanswered. Thousands of communities are watching projects freeze, and a whole generation of budding scientists are stuck waiting for a green light that may never come. Why is